everyone. Happy Tuesday to you, my friends. Let's give this a little share over to the group. How's everybody doing? We are well into a new week. Hi, Penelope. How are you? So good to see you guys. Out of breath. I had to run out of here and change shirts. I was like sweating to death. I was like, gotta put on a t-shirt. Had on a sweatshirt. Hi, Kathy. Kathy, did you treat yourself to something yummy? Hi, other Kathy. All my Kathys are here. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Nancy. So good to see you. Hi, Nicole. Oh, goodness. Hi, Terry. Catch my breath a second. It's like 1 o'clock on the dot, and I'm like, oh, I gotta change my shirt. Why wait till the last minute? Hey, Joan. Hey, Sharon. Hey, Barb. So, you guys, I'm excited about this project. She says through teeth. I am excited about this because I've been putting this one off for a while. I don't even really know why. Hold on. Words are hard. This is going to be a beautiful project. Like, I haven't even completely put this together. I just laid all the beads out and I decided what I want it to look like, but I haven't actually executed this. But I know that the results are going to be gorgeous because of the bead choices and because of the Sari silk that I picked out. Like, the combination is going to be really, really beautiful. So what I'm hoping for is that I can inspire you to go to wherever you keep your fabric scraps. And I know there are a lot of you who do have fabric scraps. Some of you don't and don't sew, and that's cool. I don't sew at all. I just happen to have fabric scraps because I keep all things. But you don't have to do this with Sari ribbon. You can do this with just about anything. In fact, one of the like, now that we're all getting our shots and are more kind of free to go out into the world, I kind of think it's cool. I don't know how you guys will feel about this, but I'm kind of a scavenger in a sense that I like to go to the thrift stores and find like silk shirts that maybe they've got a stain or a tear or I don't know, but the majority of it is okay, but it's not a shirt I would necessarily ever wear. Silk shirts like that. Silk scarves, a lot of times at the thrift stores, there'll be like a whole section of scarves. Even silk ties can be, you can just use a stitch ripper and rip all of the seams out. And then you can take all of those pieces of clothing that you have hoarded, if you will, and you can cut them into strips and use them as your pieces for your tassels. So much fun, and probably costs maybe $5, right? You go to the thrift store and grab a couple of silk shirts and you've got enough fabric to put together more than one necklace. Also, if you go to your craft store and you go to the remnants section, you know, back in the back, usually where they have their cutting table and all of that, they'll have like, a lot of times it's on the back wall. Sometimes it's right where the cutting table is, but they'll have remnants, and remnants are a great thing to grab because they're cheap and they're inexpensive. And a lot of times there's a lot of it, and you can bring it home and cut it into strips and use it as tassels as well. So the tassels for spring and summer are a little bit different than the tassels that we're used to seeing for fall and winter, and that's because they are more lightweight and more airy and flowy, and that's what fabric tassels are going to do. So Sari silk, fabric scraps, anything you've got are going to make really cool tassels that you can turn into amazing pendants. So yeah, really a fun look that's a little bit more lightweight than like the heavier tassels with like big chain and things like that. So this is going to be kind of a this is going to be a more lightweight, summer friendly tassel, if you will. Oh, I was frozen, but I'm back to normal. That's good to know. You guys, Facebook has been a absolute bear over the past 2 days. Joan and I have been constantly fighting with Facebook. So everybody cross your fingers that everything goes well today, because I'm telling you, Facebook's kind of picky. Fancy yarn fibers work well too, says Karen. I agree. Yes, I agree. I love to go to the thrift shops and grab fabric stuff. I've been known to grab curtains. Took me a second. I'm like, drapery. What's the other word for drapery? Curtains from the thrift store, you can cut those up and make them into all kinds of fun stuff too. So yeah, I'm a thrift store. I'm a thrift store queen too, Kathy. Yes. Okay, so let's get down to business because I want to show you two different ways you can put together a tassel. One of them is actually going to go into our necklace. The other one is going to just be kind of an extra idea for how to put together a tassel if you want to out of fabric. So let's do this, shall we? All right. And fingers crossed that, oh gosh, the tripod after our incident with the Michaels class, like, oh, please work, please work. Okay, so here we go. Let me show you the fabrics that I have pulled out. So mine are not going to be super thick, but that's the cool thing about fabric tassels is that you can really kind of make these however you want them to be. So mine is going to be on the thin side. I've only got 3 pieces of fabric here and they are about 12 inches long. And this one has just like a really pretty pattern on it. And you can see it's got, it has a bit of that fringy edge. I like to trim it off if it gets too long. You know, if the fray is just out of control, I'll trim all that off as close as I possibly can. And then the other end, I think it hasn't frayed at all, which is good. And I don't mind the wrinkles, but if you don't like the wrinkles, you definitely can hit this with like a cool iron. That will make it, you know, nice and crisp and flat without all the wrinkles in it. But I kind of like the way the wrinkles make the tassel look. So what you're going to want is you're just going to want a fabric strip, however many, you know, depending on how thick you want yours to be. But you want it to be twice the length because we're going to fold it in half. Okay. So here's one of my pieces. Another one of my pieces is this kind of funny, almost camouflagey. It's like purple and green. There's even a hole in it. Like, I don't even care. But I thought that it looked really pretty with this. And then last but not least is a little straggly piece. And I love mixing in the straggly pieces. Now this one is a little bit too small to really do a lot of trimming on. I can trim off like these guys, right? You can always come in and trim those things off. But for the most part, I'm going to leave it and just let it kind of be the mess that it is. Because it's going to add texture to the design and it's really going to give it, you know, it's going to just give it more visual interest. Okay, so I've only got 3 pieces, but when you bundle them together and you fold them in half, it's going to make 6. So it's going to be nice and full. But if you want it thicker, you absolutely can add thicker. So this is the color palette that I've picked for our necklace, but I want to show you the other because like I said, we're going to do this 2 different ways and I just want to kind of show you. So for the other one, I have this royal blue and I actually have 2 pieces of the royal blue, which is really, really beautiful. This is such a good summertime blue. And then a piece of this kind of like teal. So again, only 3 pieces for that one. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do the tassel. We're actually going to start with the teal blue piece. This is the one that we're not going to use for our necklace. And this one we are going to use for our necklace. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways. Okay. Yeah, you can add pieces of chain to it. You can add bead dangles to it. Like there's so many things you can do to make your tassels more fun and more personalized for sure. So for the first tassel, I'm just going to keep this pretty easy. I'm going to take a jump ring. It's kind of a small jump ring. We'll see. Hopefully it'll work. I can squish this down pretty good. So tassels are easy, guys. Tassels do not have to be difficult. And that's really kind of what this is all about today is easy tassels. So I'm just taking a larger jump ring. This one looks to be about a, I believe that's an 8mm. It might be a 10. I'm just going to open up that jump ring and bundle my fabrics together and just attach the jump ring to it in the middle-ish. In the middle-ish area, okay? It's not exact, and we can always come in and trim later if we want to. So that's going to be our attachment point, right? Easy as it can be. But we want to bundle this, and there's a lot of different ways that you can bundle your tassel. I'm going to bundle mine with wire, and the reason that I'm going to bundle it with wire is because I want to talk about how you can add beads to this, which I'm not going to do. But I do want to talk about it because, I mean, fun, right? All right, so I'm just taking a piece of 22 gauge wire. You can use whatever you want to use. 24 gauge will work as well. And we just want to kind of lay that wire anywhere you want that top kind of bunch part to be. If you want it to be way up here, then fine. But if you want it to be further down, you just move it down a little bit. And you can always kind of adjust it later. So I'm just going to lay that wire across, and then I'm just going to messy wrap. I mean, it's that easy, you guys. Ta-da, done. No. Really though, I mean, I could be done at that point if I wanted to be. So I just kind of take both ends of the wire and wind them around a few times. And the thing, I know it seems really easy. Like, why are you showing us this? Because I want to inspire you. Because maybe you don't have a tassel topper or a big, you don't have a bead cap that's big enough, right? You can still have a really fun tassel. And what I would do with this to take this just to the next level would be, this is going to be where you want to add your chain. So if you wanted, let me grab a piece of chain just for an example here. If you wanted to add like chain dangles and fun stuff to this is a big mess of chain here, but let's just pretend for a second. So if you wanted to add chain to this, you could just slide your chain on as you're wrapping around, and that's going to kind of keep your chain in place, right? If you want all your chain pieces to be in the front and you want to dangle some beads from this, you absolutely can do that. Or as you're wrapping around, you can take your wire and fill it up with beads. Fill it up with some seed beads, or fill it up with 4mm beads, 3mm beads, whatever will fit on your wire, and then wrap those around. So you've got a whole other layer of color and texture to just a simple folded over tassel design. So there's a lot of options when it comes to putting together a tassel. And I think that's what makes it fun, because you really can play around with it. You can add so much texture. You can add charms to this, you can add beads to this, and a lot of fun. And then all you have is just your jump ring at the top, and you can literally attach that to anything you want to. In fact, you could even put a lobster clasp on this and clip it to a necklace anytime you wanted to, right? And then you could take it off. So there you go, right? That was super, super easy tassel number 1. Tassel number 2 is just as easy. So let's put tassel number 2 together, and then let's put the necklace together so we have a full piece of jewelry. Okay, so for tassel number 2, I'm going to lay all my fabric pieces out just like so. And I'm going to take a piece of more of that 22 gauge wire, okay? And I'm using German style wire. You can use whatever you want to, whatever you're comfortable with. And I'm going to give myself several inches of this, because I'm going to add some beads to this. So I'm going to give myself about 6 inches. Okay. And I'm going to place that wire at the middle of my bundles and just kind of fold them over the wire. Okay. And again, doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfectly even or anything like that. But I'm going to fold that over at the middle of the wire. Then I'm going to bring the 2 pieces of wire together and crisscross them. Okay. And we are going to do just a little like we're wrapping a briolette. So I'm going to bend one of the wires straight up and down, and then the other one I'm going to wrap around that straight wire. And it doesn't have to be a pretty wrap. You can make a little messy wrap. You can do whatever you want to, because this is all going to be hidden with a bead cap. Okay, so basically all you want is just to bundle and make sure that everything's secure. You don't have to wrap around a million times. I'm just wrapping around to use up the wire that's here, you know, so I don't have a whole lot of excess. So I'm going to come in and trim that off. Okay, and I've left myself, you can see I've left myself plenty of wire here because I want to stack some things onto this and make it really fun. So I've bundled all of my fabric pieces, and now I've got one of these bead caps. Guys, these come from Tiara Cast, and they're a little on the pricey side, but they're so worth it because they're really sturdy. Like, they are substantial. You can open them up if you want to, but I kind of like this like flower look that it, you know, just kind of closed up flower look, if you will. But I've seen these elsewhere that are just kind of like a knockoff, if you will. And I'm not dissing the knockoff by any means, but they are definitely more bendable and pliable. The Tiara cast ones have just a little bit extra oomph to them, right? The quality is just really, really nice. So I'm going to slide this down. Any kind of tassel topper or bead cap that you want to use is going to work. And you may want the top of your tassel to be a little bit more full and not nearly as closed down as mine is. So totally up to you. Fran says tulip caps. Yes, yes, yes. Love them. Tulip caps. I'm glad I know now what they are called. And they come in a variety of colors too. I love the copper ones. They're my favorite. Okay, so something else that you can do to these is you can put some patina on these. And I almost grabbed the patina paints before we started, but I couldn't decide what color patina I wanted to pull from the fabric. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to leave it just like it is. But if you want to add a touch of color to these, you absolutely can. Any of your metals will take the patina paints and it looks really beautiful. So always keep that in mind too. It's just another way to be extra creative with your tassel. All right, so now what I want to do is I just want to stack some things up here, and I am going to stack up some antique brass beads, some spacers. I'm just going to make a little stack of fun. So I'm going to put a rhinestone spacer down. I'm going to put this antique brass bead with the rhinestones in it. I'll put another one of those rhinestone spacers. I'm going to drop down a crystal because these crystal beads we're going to use in the necklace part. And then I'm going to top all of that off with just a little tiny antique brass bead, just to, you know. Okay, and now that I'm looking at it, I feel like I've not used enough wire. So, I may need to cut another piece of wire. Originally, I wanted to do a really big bail and use, I don't know if we've got enough wire. We're going to try it. Like I said, I haven't actually created this necklace. I just kind of laid it all out like I wanted it to. So I'm going to go ahead and bend the wire, and I'm going to come in with my large bell making pliers. I'm going to use the smaller mandrel of the two, and I don't know, we might need more wire. I'm going to take it, hold the wire between the barrel of the pliers, go around once, roll those pliers out of the way. I'm going to go around a second time. I may have enough. And I'm going to wrap around a second time. And let's see if we can get a third out of it. And a third time. So I'm actually wrapping around 3 times. Okay. And then I'm going to take my tail. That was just enough wire. That got lucky. And I'm going to do my wire wrap. Let me lift you up just a little. Trying to be gentle with the tripod today. And I'm just going to wire wrap just like a normal wire wrapped loop here. Okay. The only difference is that instead of using the round nose pliers, we just used the large bell making pliers. That's the only difference. Okay. Then I'm going to slide that off. Come on. I wrapped around really tight. Come on. Gotta wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Everybody wiggle. That's what the live wires do. We're all about the wiggle. There we go. All right, so I got that off of the tool, and I'm going to come in. I do need to clean this up a little bit, but I'm going to come in and trim off the tail. Okay. And I want to straighten up my wire wraps because they got a little wonky as I was trying to get that off of the tool. So I'm just going to come in with my pliers, kind of straighten that up a little bit. And now what I want to do is I want to take these wires and separate them out. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in with my terrible thumbnails and just kind of wiggle in between there and then slightly open up the wires. And you can use a pair of, let's see, I've got a pair of flat nose pliers around here somewhere. You can use a pair of flat nose pliers to do the same thing, right? And just kind of open up. And basically all we've done is we've just made a little kind of decorative bell at the top. It's not anything like extraordinary by any means, but just a little something different than just a regular wrapped loop, right? Just gives it a little something extra. So that's the top of our tassel. Now our tassel is ready to add to our piece. And I'm telling you, this would look amazing on just about anything. I'm so tempted to just put a lobster clasp on this and then just hook it to whatever long necklace I have, right? And that's what's really cool about tassels like this, because they're not heavy, because it's all fabric. It's not gonna distort the way your necklace looks, you know? I mean, unless you load it up with fabric. This one's pretty lightweight. So, all right, so our tassel part is pretty much done. Down here at the bottom, I definitely can trim a little bit where some of the pieces are a little bit longer, but you don't have to. You can just leave it like it is. In fact, if you see like this guy, see how he's so wide? I'm gonna even come in with my scissors and like very carefully cut him in to 2 strips. And I'm just cutting up to the inside of the bead cap. I don't know, that just makes a little bit of a difference. It's more kind of uniform. Now I feel like all of the pieces are kind of the same, right? They're all kind of the same width. All right, so we're gonna set our tassel to the side, and then we're just gonna build an easy necklace, guys. This is so easy. We're not gonna do anything crazy hard, but I've said it once, I've said it a million times, that beautiful jewelry does not have to be crazy hard, right? So let me just sit out what I've got here. So I have these 2 brass rings that I got from a piece of chain. I'm going to put those on either side because our beaded section is only going to be just this little short section, and we're going to hang our tassel from it. And then for the length, I'm just going to use a piece of leather because, again, lightweight, great for the warmer weather. Camille says, what is the fabric? So the fabric is just strips of Sari ribbon and silk. And, you know, they just came out of my scrap box. Just pretty. I just picked some pretty colors that go together. You can use just about anything. Any fabric scraps will do. Don't feel like you have to go out and buy Sari ribbon, you guys. You totally don't. Okay, so we're going to do the beaded section just here in the front. And I'm going to use, because you guys know I don't like for my bail to touch my bead stringing wire. So I'm going to put some of these little antique brass spacer beads in the front. And that's what's actually going to hold our bail, okay, so that it protects it from the bead stringing wire and everything is happy. I'm going to put in some of these crystal beads like the one that we topped our tassel off with. And I've got 2 more of these guys, which is just a smaller version of the one that is already in our tassel. So I'm going to put those guys out. I'm going to do another one of those glass crystals. I've got some of these little daisy spacers just to bring some more of the metal in. And then I have these guys, which this is some kind of jasper. Forgive me for not knowing what kind of jasper, but this rondelle jasper is just the perfect match for the colors that are in the, like, look at that. That was perfect, right? That was such a perfect. And it was just by luck. Plus, I really love this shape. So I'm going to put some of those on that side, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. Add a few of those. And I don't know, like, I don't know how much beadier I want this to be, because I don't want the beads to take away. I want them to be an accent, but I don't want them to take away from the actual design. So I want to keep the bead section, I think, pretty short. I think that'll do. And then we'll just do the length with some leather. Okay. So I'm going to set this to the side for a second. We're going to grab our bead stringing wire. And for today's project, I'm not going to use any wire guardians. I'm just going to loop my bead stringing wire around, which is kind of different for me because I normally grab for wire guardians, but I didn't happen to have any in this antique brass color. So we're just going to use what we've got. I'm going to use some gold color bead stringing wire. I'm using kind of a heavier gauge for this. This one is a 0.24 in this beautiful gold color. Since it is going to show, I thought that this would be a good choice, because if we're not going to use a wire guardian, you're definitely going to see some of the bead stringing wire. So got a piece of that. And I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take one of my crimp beads, which is also weird for me. I normally use crimp tubes, but I'm using a crimp bead. I'm going to put that on the end of your bead stringing wire, bring in your ring of some variety, and then you just want to loop your bead stringing wire through and go back down through your crimp. Okay. So if you've got a wire guardian that's going to match your metal, go for it. I just don't happen to have any on hand. But that's okay, because this bead stringing wire is so beautiful that I'm not mad at it. Right? So you want to be sure that the bead stringing wire is not crossing inside your crimp bead or your crimp tube, whichever you happen to be using. Okay, so make sure those wires are separated out. Make sure you've got enough wiggle room for your ring. You don't want it to be super, super tight. And then we're just going to use that back notch of the crimper tool, the one that looks like a piece of macaroni. It's got that tooth that's going to come down and further separate. And you can see how it actually separates out those wires within the crimp bead. Okay. And then I'm going to take it out of that. You can see where it's separated in there. I love that you can actually see that it happens, right? So you know you've done it right. I'm going to put it in the front notch of the crimper tool and squeeze. And that's really just going to kind of tidy up, make it nice and small. If you want to put a crimp cover over that, you can, but it is so small and unobtrusive. I'm just going to leave it just like it is. Will seed beads fit on a wire guardian? You mean like around the horseshoe part of a wire guardian? I think some will. I think they will. I don't know. I've not ever used a wire guardian that way, so I'm not entirely sure, but I would imagine so. I'm going to come in with my cutter tool, and actually I'm not going to trim. I'm just going to thread that in. Whoops. Oh, looks like I used this end for something else once upon a time. All right, now I'm going to thread on my beads, and let's just cover up that tail as much as we can. We can always trim off if we need to. And again, you can add a crimp cover if you want. I don't think it needs it. That crimp bead is so small. And I'm going to thread on all the way down here to these guys, okay? So when we get to the little antique brass beads, that's when we want to thread on our tassel. My bead stringing wire is a little thick. I don't know if it's going to go through. Yeah. But I don't want to struggle with that again, so I'm going to go ahead and trim that off. Just a tight little squeeze there. Okay. All right, drop those down. So pretty. This color combination, it works for spring and summer, but it's also going to work for fall, which is great. Don't shy away from earthy tones. You know, don't feel like your earthy greens and maroons are too much for spring and summer, because you totally can get away with it, especially when you mix them with something light, like a lighter color glass crystal like we've got here. All right, so there are those. I'm going to thread on our little antique brass beads, and then we'll put on our tassel and string up the other side, and then we're going to attach our leather to this. So I've cut a long piece of leather. I'm not actually going to add any hardware to this. So this is just going to be kind of an over your head style necklace, but if you want to add hardware, you absolutely can. Okay, I'm just gonna use one single piece of leather. All right, so thread all of that on. Yes, Maggie. Yeah, I agree. Earth tones are perfect for redheads. That's probably why I'm so drawn to this color palette, is because of this beautiful kind of orange red that's in here. Yep. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. All right. Really, really pretty. I think this is going to turn out even better than what I had anticipated. All right, so you can see how that's going to hang, right? It's going to be really, really pretty. Okay, so we're ready to crimp again on the other end. I'm going to take a crimp bead. Yeah, I love not having hardware too. Makes life so much easier. I don't like to fuss with a clasp unless I absolutely have to. All right, so same thing, just like we did on the other end. Okay, we're just threading on our little brass ring, and then we're gonna go back down through our crimp and go a little slow because my bead stringing wire is pretty thick, but this was the only gold bead stringing wire that I had, so we're going with this thicker diameter, which I'm fine with. Okay, and then I'm going to pull all of this down. I have a lot of extra wire here. Emily says I'm late. What'd I miss? Well, we're putting together a necklace out of fabric. All right, so I don't think I'm going to be able to wiggle this wire through one of those jasper beads. So I'm just going to come out between the crystal bead and the spacer there. And the reason I do this on this side, and I've said this a bunch, but we oftentimes have new people joining us. So I do this so that I can have more leverage down away from my crimp. I can really help to straighten out those wires without crowding this whole thing up with all of my fingers and then trying to come in with my crimper tool. So a lot of times I'll string back through a bead or two and pull from down here instead of up here. That just gives me more room to get that crimper tool in there. And I want to try to make sure that my two loops are pretty even as far as the way that they are shaped. I don't want one of them to be really big and the other one not. And then I'm just going to crimp just like we did on the other side. So into the back notch and squeeze, and then turn it sideways and put it into the front notch and give it a good squeeze. Make sure everything is nice and secure, and then you can come in and trim off the tail here. All right, so our little beaded section is done, and you can see how the little beads in here, and you don't have to use metal beads. You can use seed beads for this little section, but I like to have a bead between my bail and my bead stringing wire. That's just going to keep, because you can see this is going to wiggle around. There's going to be a lot of movement there. And I don't want that wiggling up against that nylon coating of my bead stringing wire. So I put the beads in there as my protective barrier, and they just look really nice as well. But it's important to do that so that you're not wearing away that outer nylon coating, which is just going to make a weak spot in your wire. And then of course your necklace is, you know, it could fail and break. So that's why I do that the way that I do. Okay, so now I've got a piece of leather here, and I just have one really long piece of leather. I don't have any hardware, and I wasn't really sure exactly how I wanted to attach this. I think I'm gonna try to do a little knot. Hold on, there was a question here. Lorena says, did you skip the wire guardian because of the thicker wire? No, actually I skipped the wire guardian because I just didn't have any in the antique brass color. So I picked a really beautiful gold color wire because I knew it was going to be exposed. If I'd had a antique brass colored wire guardian, I would have used it, honestly, but I just didn't have one. So yeah, that's why. All right, let me grab some more leather here because I think what I want to do, there's a couple of things you can do here. So you can take your wire or your leather or your cord or whatever you're using and fold it over, and then just take more of your wire and just wrap around to make a, you know, to make a wire bundle, and that'll hold it. But I think I'm going to do a little barrel knot. Fingers crossed, because I'm not really good at these barrel knots. So we're going to try to put a barrel knot on this on both sides and hope that it looks okay. I'm just grabbing some of my leather scraps here. Okay, so cross your fingers for me. So I've folded my leather, okay, in half. And I'm going to take another piece of leather. And let's see. I always forget how to do this when it's important. I'm going to lay the end up against the other ends. Okay. And then I've got my long tail here. And I'm going to create a coil. I'm probably doing this wrong. I'm going to create a coil around all of the leather. About 3 or 4 if possible. Okay. And once I've done that, I'm going to take this end and I want to wiggle it in going the other direction. So don't coil tight, because you got to be able to get your cord back through. Oh goodness, come on. I know you want to work. All right. And then pull your tail out. Okay. And then you want to pull the other tail. And gosh, you just want to wiggle and kind of use your fingers. I'm not doing it right, am I? Come on, come on, come on, come on. I did do it right. Okay. You use your fingers to kind of tighten it down, right? And pull on both ends. Just don't mix up your short tail of your actual necklace. And it's hard to do when it's all one color. It's much easier to do if you're using a different color of leather for your knot, because then you don't accidentally pull on the length of your necklace instead. All right, so Kendall says, yeah, I don't know how to do that. Yeah, if you use a tube, it is so much easier. I just don't have one on hand. So I just kind of pull it down, and then I very gently tug on both ends until it is the tightness that I want. Okay. And then I'm going to come in with my hypo cement, and I'm actually going to add a little tiny bit of glue to this, and then I will trim off. And this is my length here. Okay. This little short guy, and then the length of my necklace. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side, but I do want to just add a little bit of glue to this. Yeah, Kathleen, Sandra Younger uses a metal rod. Yeah, there's so many tricks, but I'm just kind of like, I'm improvising. There are much easier probably ways of doing it than I did, but I mean, we're getting the job done, right? So I'm just taking that hypo cement and I'm kind of pushing it into the inside of the knot. Okay. And I'm going to let that dry, and then I will trim that off. Winging it like eyeliner. Yep. Indeed. Okay. So now, hopefully, and I'm going to go ahead and trim these kind of short. We'll trim them completely off in a minute. And guys, I marked these. These are the bad ones. Remember the bad pliers? You see how they've got that horrible, horrible gash in the... I marked these. I just did not have the heart to throw them away. So I marked them. Now I can use these to cut leather and other things, but they definitely do not do good at cutting wire. But yeah, just so you know. Somebody asked before, they were like, did you ever throw those away? Because I tried twice and I just didn't have the heart to do it. Okay. So I'm going to come over here with my other end. Now remember, this is just one long extended piece because I just want this necklace to go over my head. Okay. So I'm going to come over here to the other side, and I'm just going to do the same thing. Take my leather, fold it over, And I can always trim later to make my two little tails the same length. So I'm not super concerned with that. Okay. I'm going to turn it this direction though, so that we're doing it the same direction as we did the first one. So fold it in half. Okay. And I haven't brought in another piece of leather yet. I'm going to do that right now. So I'm going to bring in another piece of the leather, and I'll try to walk through this a little bit slower this time for those of you who want to wing it like I do. Stay out of the way now. Come on, cord. To weight that down with some tools. Okay. So I take the tail end of my cord, my wrapping cord, okay? And I just want to take a short end of it, kind of the same as my other tail, and lay it just like that, okay? So on one end, that's what I've got. On the other end, this is what I've got, okay? Now, I'm gonna take the length of this, and I'm going to bundle around all of the pieces. Okay, and I'm going to bundle around about 3 times so that it matches on both sides. Keep your bundle kind of loose. Hold it all together with your fingers, but keep it loose, because once you've gone around as many times as you want to take that tail and go into the coil back the other direction. Okay, so I'm just going to wiggle that through there. And if you need to get your pliers in there to grab the tail of that, there's no shame in that. That's what your tools are for. Tools are meant to make your life easier. All right, so now I'm going to pull this end, and then I want to pull the other end and wiggle with your fingers to really kind of situate and make it as tight. You can't just pull on both sides and cinch it down. Hi, Sherry. You gotta go slow with your barrel knots. Okay. You really kind of have to form them with your fingers and tighten them down a little bit at a time. Okay. Don't rush through a barrel knot. It will make a mess on you, and you'll just end up really frustrated and need to do it a second time. So just go slow with it, and just little tugs on both ends until you get it the size that you want and the tightness that you want. Those look pretty good to me. So I'm going to come in again. The hypo cement, and I'm just going to kind of tuck it down in there. That's what that little precision tip is perfect for. And I'm going to do the same thing over here on the other side. Just kind of pushing that glue down inside. Okay. And then we are going to be done. We're going to trim off our tails. Joan, text Sarah, not me. It's so funny. All right, so I'm going to come in. This is the tail for the necklace. Okay, so don't trim that one. That's why I cut these 2 short, so that I would know. And I cut those right up next to the knot. See how close? That's why that glue is super important. So now when you look at it, that's what you got. You don't even know that that was an extra piece of leather that you used. It looks like all one piece, which you absolutely can do this in all one piece. I just really am not good at that part. So I use an extra piece of leather. You can do it, you know, with just the single piece that you've got. But when, you know, when it ends up looking worse, just use a scrap of leather instead and do it the way I did it. Save yourself the frustration. All right, coming in, trim off as close to that knot as I can get. Okay, and then you can look at it in your little tails. If you want to trim those down a little bit, you can. I'm going to trim mine down just a tiny bit, just because this one has a funny, it's looking weird on the end. So just going to come and cut those off just like that, and we're good to go. So fun. I love, 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 love knots and leather, and just, I can't wait to put this on the bust so you can see it, because it's really hard to see this and really appreciate what it looks like with it flat like this, but you do get kind of the idea of what you've got here. Oh my gosh, you guys are so funny. All right, I'm going to turn you guys around, and I'm going to put this on the bust so you can see it. Okay. Hello again, my darlings. All right. So again, you're going to see nice and long. This is definitely like an over the head necklace for sure. Put it on the bust so you can really see. And I'm even going to have to shorten it up on the bust just so that you can kind of see the whole tassel. How pretty that is. And there's not a lot to this, but this is one of those pieces where it's nice and long. You just throw this on and then layer it with some of your other favorite pieces, or just wear it by itself. And it's lightweight and airy, so it's going to be perfect for the summer, and you're not going to sweat to death. Plus, it's not heavy. It's not going to be like pulling on you. Sometimes those long layered necklaces that we wear in the winter time, it's sort of like high heels, right? By the end of the day, your feet are killing you. If you wear a heavy necklace in the winter time, by the end of the day, like your neck and your head is killing you. So you get to take a break from all of that in the spring and summer and really stick with lightweight pieces. That's why I love, you know, leather and fabric for those kinds of things. So I hope you guys have liked this. I think it turned out really beautifully, and it's just scraps, you guys, just scraps. And it only takes a handful of beads to put something like this together. So you're not even using a ton of stuff out of your stash. Pick a couple of your favorite crystals, or your favorite, you know, gemstones, or your favorite check glass beads, and just throw them on there that match, and you're good to go. I think it turned out really, really pretty. I like it a lot. I don't know if this one's going in the shop or not. I might have to keep this one and wear it myself. It's so pretty. I love the colorway. So I don't know. That might be a keeper for me. Yes, very bohemian indeed, Anita. I agree. So that's it for the project. I just want to touch base a little bit with you guys and give you some of the housekeeping that I didn't give you at the beginning because I was carrying on about fabric. Joan has posted, you guys, for those of you who want to sign up for the text message alerts, that is completely free. All you got to do is just text your name or hi or whatever you want to that number, and you will be subscribed to my text messages. I will not spam you. I usually just send out, like earlier today, I sent out a message that was just a reminder for the live today. So it's a great way to stay in touch with each other. You can also message me directly, which is cool. So if you've got a problem, or you've got a design, you know, issue, and you want some help, you can text to that number and you'll actually get me. It really is me on the other side. I don't get those messages right away, so there is kind of a little bit of a delay. So be patient with me. I don't see them as they happen, but as close as possible to when those messages come through. I tend to not send text messages. I'm on the eastern side of the country, so I tend to not text after 8. So if you sent me a question in the nighttime, I will usually wait until the next day. Just because I hope you're sleeping. I'm trying to. I don't know. No, but you won't disturb me. So don't worry about that. You don't have to worry about that on your end. Just know that I won't text you in the middle of the night, but feel free to text me because I turn my phone off, so I don't hear it anyway. All right, let's see. Anything else? I've got some changes coming up to the Etsy shop, which are going to be kind of cool, but I'm going to save that for Friday. It's not anything major. It's just a cool little feature that I thought would be a fun little addition to the kits that normally go out on Fridays. I'm working on those. I can't wait for you guys to see the kits for this week. They're going to be awesome. And of course, we'll have a Facebook Live on Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern time with another fun project. I haven't put it together yet, so I don't know what it's going to be. Be a surprise to both of us, right? All right, guys, have a wonderful, yes, you can text me at 2 a.m. just to chat. I'll be asleep and I'll text you back when I have my coffee. Oh my goodness. You guys have a wonderful rest of the afternoon, and I will see you guys not tomorrow, but the next day. So have a great Wednesday, you guys. Bye, guys.